The stallion's hooves struck the wooden fence with enough force to splinter oak. Elowyn Thorne didn't flinch. She stood at the edge of the paddock, her worn traveling cloak soaked through from the morning mist, watching the massive black horse rear and scream at the sky. His coat was the color of a moonless night, his mane wild and tangled. Foam flecked his mouth. His eyes rolled with fury, and beneath that fury, something she recognized instantly: fear. 3 men lay in the mud outside the enclosure, groaning. One clutched his arm at an angle that meant weeks of healing. Another had blood streaming from his temple. "Get the physician," someone shouted, "and fetch the Duke. Tell him Stormbreaker's done it again." Elowyn pressed her fingers against the rough fence post. The horse paced the far end of the paddock, muscles coiled, ears flat against his skull. He was magnificent. He was also completely misunderstood. "You there, girl!" A weathered man in stablemaster's clothing limped toward her. "Get away from that fence. That beast has killed 2 men and crippled 4 others." "He won't hurt me," Elowyn said softly. "He's not trying to kill anyone. He's trying to survive." Before the stablemaster could respond, a new voice cut through the morning air, low, controlled, and cold enough to freeze the mist where it hung. "Before what, Beckett?" Elowyn turned. The Duke of Ashworth stood 20 paces away. She'd heard stories about Theron Vale, the youngest duke in 3 generations, the recluse who hadn't attended a social function in 5 years, the man rumored to have ice where his heart should be. The stories hadn't mentioned that he moved like a predator. He was tall, with broad shoulders beneath a black riding coat, and dark hair that fell across a forehead lined with tension. But it was his eyes that held her, pale green, the color of frost on spring leaves, and utterly empty. "Who is this?" he asked Beckett. "Vagrant, your grace. Found her wandering the north road. She's been lurking about the stables." "I was looking for work," Elowyn said steadily. "I'm good with horses. Very good. Everyone who's attempted to break that animal has claimed the same. They're now missing fingers, limbs, or their lives." The Duke stepped closer. "What makes you different?" "Because I know what it's like to be broken and blamed for it," she thought. "Let me try," she said instead. 1 hour. If I fail, I leave and never return. If I succeed, you give me a position." "What's your name?" "Elowyn Thorne." Recognition flickered across his features. "Thorne? Of the Thornwood breeding stables? I heard they were destroyed. The family ruined by diseased horses sold to noble houses." "The accusations were lies." Her voice hardened. "We were destroyed by a man who couldn't accept that a woman refused his proposal. He fabricated evidence, bribed inspectors, and burned everything my family built. My father didn't drink himself to death. Corvain Hastings decided that if he couldn't own me, he would destroy me instead." The Duke's expression sharpened. "Corvain Hastings. He's been attempting to purchase my eastern lands for 2 years. Then you know what he's capable of." A long pause. Then, 1 hour. "If the horse kills you, I'll ensure you're buried properly." He walked away without waiting for her response. The gate creaked as Elowyn slipped through. Every stable hand went silent, waiting for the scream, the crunch of bone. Stormbreaker stood 40 feet away, nostrils flaring, reading her scent. Elowyn stopped just inside the fence and sat down in the mud. Minutes passed. The cold seeped through her thin cloak. But she'd learned something in her father's stables. Horses didn't speak with words. They spoke with presence, with breath, with a body that meant no harm. Then she felt it. Soft vibrations through the ground. Hoofbeats, approaching slowly. Warm breath gusted across her face. Elowyn opened her eyes. Stormbreaker stood directly before her, close enough to touch. His ears were forward now, curious. "Hello," she whispered. Slowly she raised her hand, palm up. The horse stretched forward, sniffing her fingers. Then, with gentleness that defied everything she'd been told about him, he pressed his muzzle into her hand, Gasps erupted from beyond the fence. "I know," she murmured. "You're not a monster. You're mourning. Who did you lose?" She spent the hour simply being with him, walking beside him, offering touch when he sought it. She didn't try to mount or bridle him. She just listened. When the hour ended, Stormbreaker followed her to the gate. The Duke was waiting, his expression unreadable. "He'll need time," Elowen said. "Weeks, not days. Whoever handled him before broke something in his trust. No one handled him before." The Duke's voice was strained. "He was trained by someone who never used force. My sister Marin raised him from a foal. She was the only person he ever let ride her." "What happened to her?" The vulnerability disappeared behind ice. "She died. 5 years ago. Riding accident. They found her at the bottom of a ravine. The horse was standing over her, refusing to leave." Elowen's heart clenched. "That's why you won't put him down." "That's why I'll never put him down." He turned away. "Beckett will show you to the servants' quarters. You work with the horse, and only the horse. You answer to me." "Agreed." He paused. "One more thing. Corvain Hastings arrives at my estate in 3 days." The blood drained from Elowen's face. "If you want to remain invisible," the Duke continued, "stay far from the main house." He walked away, leaving her with terror clawing at her chest. Corvain was coming here. The man who'd murdered her father, driven her mother to madness, and stolen everything she'd ever loved. She had 3 days to decide, hide or fight. On the third morning, Elowen watched from the stable shadows as a gleaming black carriage rolled through the estate gates. Corvain Hastings stepped out into the pale sunlight. Tall, immaculately dressed, with golden hair and a smile designed to charm. He greeted the household staff with practiced warmth. A wolf dressed as a gentleman. That night, a message arrived from the Duke. "Meet me in the East Library. Midnight." She found him surrounded by documents, financial records, correspondence, witness statements. "I've been reviewing everything I have on Corvain," he said without preamble. "It's not enough. It's never been enough." "What exactly did your sister discover?" "I don't know the specifics. She said she'd found proof that Corvain was involved in something far worse than financial fraud, something that could bring down half the noble families in England." His voice tightened. "She was planning to present it to Parliament. Then she died, and every document she'd collected disappeared." Elowen told him about the ledgers she'd glimpsed during her engagement, payments to shipping companies, references to unspecified cargo, ports scattered across the Mediterranean and Caribbean. "Human cargo," Theron finished grimly. "Slaves. The trade has been illegal for 20 years, but if Corvain's family is still involved, we destroy him. We need proof that can't be explained away. Testimony from someone inside his operation." Theron began pacing. "There's a house party in 2 weeks. Lord Ashford's annual hunt. Everyone of importance attends. I want you there as my guest, but not as Elowen Thorne." "A disguise?" "A new identity. A distant cousin from the continent. A widow with a modest fortune interested in investment opportunities. Different hair, different clothing, different manner." "You're talking about turning me into a completely different person in 2 weeks." "I'm talking about revealing the person you've always been." His voice softened. "The woman who walked into a paddock with a killer horse and refused to be afraid. That woman can do this." Elowen looked at the documents. Proof of monstrous crimes, just out of reach. "What do you need from me?" "Everything you remember. Every conversation, every document, every person Corvain met with. We'll reconstruct his crimes piece by piece." His jaw tightened. "And when we have enough, we won't just expose him. We'll destroy him completely." She thought of her father dying in disgrace, her mother lost in madness, her 14-year-old sister growing up in the shadow of shame. "All right. Tell me what I need to learn." The next 11 days were exhausting. Mornings belonged to Stormbreaker. By the 4th day, she slipped a halter over his head without resistance. By the 8th, she laid a blanket across his back. He didn't rear. He simply turned and pressed his nose against her shoulder. "You're not just taming him," Beckett observed. "You're healing him." "Afternoons belong to Theron. You're Lady Sina Varys," he explained, producing forged documents. "A widow from Astoria, a small principality most English aristocrats have never visited. Your husband died 2 years ago. You're traveling to expand his investment portfolio." He drilled her on etiquette, diction, and aristocratic conversation. They built her identity piece by piece. Husband's name, family history, opinions on art, music, politics. "Corvain will seek you out," Theron warned. "A wealthy widow is exactly the target he prefers. Let him pursue you. Make him believe he's in control. And when his guard is down, we'll find what we need." The night before departure, Elowen visited Stormbreaker one final time. "I'll be gone for a few days," she whispered, wrapping her arms around his neck. "But I'll come back, I promise." Tomorrow she would become Lady Sina Varys. Tomorrow she would walk into a room full of wolves. Ashford Hall rose from manicured parkland like something from a fairy tale. 40 guests had assembled for Lord Ashford's annual hunt. Elowen barely recognized herself. Hair restyled, face subtly painted, wrapped in sapphire silk that proclaimed wealth and status. When they were announced, Corvain's attention found her immediately. He approached with that familiar, charming smile. "Lady Varys, I don't believe we've been introduced." Her skin crawled as he kissed her gloved hand. "Lord Hastings, a pleasure." "The pleasure is entirely mine. Astoria, you said?" "I've done some business there. Shipping, primarily." "Liar," she thought. "You've never been there." He was attentive throughout dinner, asking about her journey, her late husband's interests, offering investment guidance. Beneath every word, she heard the same calculation she remembered from their engagement. Later, during the evening's dancing, he pulled her closer than propriety allowed. "You intrigue me, Lady Varys. You're hiding something." Her heart froze, but her expression remained serene. "Whatever do you mean?" "You're too controlled, too perfect." His thumb traced her waist. "Most women are either vapid or ambitious. You're neither." "Perhaps I'm simply nervous about making mistakes in a foreign country." "Ah, the burden of being an outsider." His tension eased. "Perhaps that's why I'm drawn to you. We're both outsiders pretending to belong." After the dance, Theron appeared at her elbow. "He suspects something," she murmured. "He noticed I'm too careful. But he accepted your explanation. That's what matters." His gaze swept the room. "I received word this morning. Captain Aldrich Vane, one of Corvain's shipping contacts, is docked in Portsmouth. His ship sails in 5 days. That's our window, if we can reach him." That night, a knock came at Elowen's door. A young woman stood there, perhaps 17, with auburn hair and frightened eyes. "You're Lady Varys? I'm Emmeline Mercer. Lord Hastings wants to marry me." Her voice trembled. "I need your help because I'm terrified, and there's no one else I can ask." Emmeline's story spilled out in fragments. 6 months ago, she'd gotten lost at Corvain's estate and overheard him meeting with rough men, discussing cargo and fresh stock from the African coast. When I tried to tell my mother, she said I was being hysterical, that Lord Hastings was respectable. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "My mother is pushing for a formal engagement next month. Once I'm bound to him legally, I'll have no escape." Elowen took her hands. "You won't marry him. I won't let that happen." "How can you stop it?" "Because I know exactly what he's capable of." Elowen held her gaze. 3 years ago, I was engaged to him. When I discovered evidence of his crimes, he destroyed my family. "My name is Elowen Thorne. I'm here to bring him down." Emmeline's eyes widened. Then, slowly, Her expression hardened. I want to help. She described everything she'd observed. Captains who visited Corvain's estate, a locked basement room, servants were forbidden to enter, documents she'd glimpsed before Corvain caught her looking. There was one captain he seemed particularly close to, Emmeline recalled. Aldrich Vane. Elowyn's pulse quickened. The same Captain Theron had mentioned. When Theron heard Emmeline's account, his expression turned to stone. He's using his estate as a transfer point, moving people through the property before shipping them to the colonies. He turned to Elowyn. We need to move faster. Whatever evidence we can gather, we're running out of time. Then we leave tonight. We ride for Portsmouth and find Captain Vane. And if Corvain follows, then we deal with him on the road. That night, while the household slept, 3 horses disappeared into darkness, carrying a duke, a refugee, and a girl who refused to be sold to a monster. They reached Portsmouth on the 3rd day. Captain Vane's ship, the Crimson Fortune, was moored at the eastern dock, a sleek vessel with lines suggesting she could outrun naval ships if necessary. Vane received them in his cabin, surrounded by maps and cheap whiskey. "The Duke of Ashworth," he said, not bothering to rise. "I've been wondering when you'd come calling." His gaze slid to Elowyn, and the Thorn girl who was supposed to be dead. Her blood ran cold. "Did you think Corvain wouldn't send word?" Vane laughed. "The moment you left that house party, he knew. He's got eyes everywhere." "Then why are we still alive?" Theron demanded. "Because I'm tired." Vane's voice flattened. "I've been moving cargo for Corvain for 15 years. Men, women, children, packed into holds like livestock. I told myself it was just business." "What changed?" "Last voyage, there was a woman with a newborn baby. The baby died on the 3rd day. The mother held that dead child for 4 more days, singing lullabies to a corpse." He drained his glass. "I can't do it anymore." "Then help us," Elowyn said. "Testify against Corvain." "You think it's that simple? He's got half the magistrates in his pocket. And if you don't testify, you'll spend the rest of your life hearing that woman's lullabies." Elowyn stepped forward. "We already have testimony from multiple witnesses. All we need is someone inside the operation." Vane studied her. "You've got fire in you. Corvain was a fool to try and break you." He crossed to a locked chest, withdrawing a thick leather folder. "Manifests. Every voyage I've made for Corvain. Names of ships, ports, contacts, payments. Enough to hang him 10 times over." Theron scanned the contents, hope dawning on his face. "This is everything." "Not quite." Vane's voice dropped. "There's something you should know. 5 years ago, a young woman came asking questions. Daughter of a duke. I turned her away and told Corvain she'd been sniffing around." Theron went rigid. "Marin." "When I heard about the accident," Vane couldn't meet his eyes. "I was a coward. Kill me if you want. But those documents die with me, and Corvain walks free." Elowyn's hand closed over Theron's wrist. "He's not the enemy. He's our weapon." Slowly, Theron released his grip. "You'll testify. Everything you know. And when Corvain falls, you disappear completely." Vane nodded. "God help me. I'll testify." They returned to find chaos. Their inn-room had been ransacked. Emmeline sat bound to a chair, blood trickling from her forehead, and behind her stood Corvain Hastings. "There you are," he said pleasantly. "I was beginning to think you'd fled entirely." 4 armed men flanked him. A knife pressed against Emmeline's throat. "What do you want?" Theron demanded. "Those documents." The manifests Vane handed over. Corvain's smile widened. "Now, or Miss Mercer dies." Theron hesitated, then slowly produced the leather folder. "Slide it across the floor." The folder slid to Corvain's feet. "Excellent." His smile turned predatory. "Now let's discuss what happens next." "You can't kill all of us and walk away clean," Elowyn said. Too many people know. Lady Grantham has been dealt with. A tragic fall down her staircase. And Captain Vane? Ships are dangerous. Fires happen. Corvain stepped closer. But I'm willing to offer you a choice, Elowen. Come with me willingly. Become my wife. In return, I let everyone live. I'd rather die. That can be arranged. But consider. Your mother in that sanitarium, your 14-year-old sister so vulnerable. Leave them out of this. They're already in it. His grip tightened on her jaw. Last chance. Then, from the doorway, a new voice spoke. I wouldn't be so certain of your position, Lord Hastings. Captain Vane stood in the entrance, flanked by armed sailors. Beside him stood a stern woman with the bearing of command. Magistrate Isolde Prynne, Vane said. She's been investigating you for 2 years. All she needed was proof. Corvain's face went white. This is impossible. A warrant for your arrest, the magistrate announced, signed by the Lord Chancellor himself. The evidence Captain Vane provided, combined with testimony from survivors, is more than sufficient. Survivors? What survivors? The woman with the dead baby. She lived. She talked. And she wasn't the only one. Within minutes, Corvain was bound and dragged away, his empire crumbling around him. Elowen sank into a chair, legs trembling. Theron was beside her instantly, hands cupping her face. You're safe. We did it. Together, she whispered. Like we promised. The trial of Corvain Hastings lasted 3 weeks. It was the scandal of the decade, a titled lord exposed as a slave trader, a murderer, a man who'd built his fortune on human misery. Elowen testified on the 7th day, wearing a simple gray dress. No disguise now. Just herself. She told them everything. The ledgers, the confrontation, the carriage ride into the forest, Corvain's face as he left her in the snow to die. She told them about the women packed into ships like cargo, their lives valued only in currency. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Emmeline testified next, then Captain Vane, then survivor after survivor who'd hidden for years, finally brave enough to speak. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Death by hanging. As Corvain was led away, he paused beside Elowen. You think you've won, he whispered, but you've made yourself a target for everyone connected to me. Let them try, she replied. I've already survived the worst you could do. The restoration of the Thorne family name took 6 months. Theron hired investigators who proved the accusations against Elowen's father had been fabricated, bribed inspectors, falsified reports, witnesses paid to lie. The day the exoneration was announced, Elowen visited her mother's sanitarium. She found her in the garden, staring at nothing, a hollow shell of the woman who'd once filled their home with music. Mother, I don't know if you can hear me, but we won. Father's name is clear. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Corvain is going to hang. He'll never hurt anyone again. Silence. And I found someone. Someone good. She pressed her mother's hand to her cheek. I wish you could see that I'm happy. For a moment she could have sworn her mother's fingers tightened around hers. Just enough. Her sister Seren arrived at Ravenfield Manor a week later, thin, wary, eyes holding too much knowledge for 14 years. Is it true? Seren asked. About Lord Hastings? About father? All of it. For the first time in years, Seren began to cry. Deep, shuddering sobs releasing grief she'd carried since their world collapsed. Elowen held her through all of it. That night, Theron found her in the library. There's something I've been wanting to ask. He produced a small box containing a ring. A simple gold band set with a single sapphire. It was Marin's. She said I should give it to someone who deserved it. He met her eyes. I'm not asking because of strategy. I'm asking because I love you. Because you walked into my life covered in mud and defiance and made me feel something I thought I'd lost forever. I'm not who I was before. she whispered. I'm scarred, broken. So am I. We can heal together, if you'll have me. Yes, she said. I'll have you. He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her, not gently, but with all the passion they'd been holding back. I love you, she said. I love you too, now and always. 1 year later, Ravenfield Manor had been transformed. The East Wing housed the Thornwood Foundation, a sanctuary for women who'd survived trafficking and abuse. Emmeline Mercer served as director. The stables had expanded too. Elowyn had used her restored fortune to rebuild her father's breeding program. And in the paddock where it all began, Stormbreaker stood watching the sunrise, his eyes finally at peace. Elowyn walked through the morning mist, an apple in hand. The stallion whickered softly, pressing his nose into her palm. We made it, she whispered. Both of us. Theron approached, their 3-month-old daughter cradled in his arms. Little Marenne, named for the sister who'd died fighting the same battle they'd won, slept peacefully against his chest. Your wife is spoiling that horse again, he said. He deserves it. He saved me as much as I saved him. Stormbreaker stretched his head over the fence, sniffing the baby. Marin's eyes fluttered open with wonder. A carriage appeared on the drive, Elowyn's mother arriving for her monthly visit. Over the past year, she'd slowly begun to return. Not fully, but enough to recognize her daughters. Enough to smile when Marin was placed in her arms. Serin waited at the entrance, now 15, helping manage the Foundation's education program. Mother's carriage is almost here, she called, and there's a letter from Magistrate Prynne, another trafficking network dismantled in Liverpool. Tell her we'll provide whatever support she needs. Already done. Serin grinned. I'm getting good at this. The carriage pulled up. Attendants helped Elowyn's mother into a wheeled chair. Her eyes were clear today, focused on her daughters, her grandchild, the life risen from ashes. My girls, she said softly, my beautiful girls. Elowyn knelt beside her. We're here, Mother. We're all here. That evening, Elowyn returned to the stables one last time. Stormbreaker was waiting. She leaned against his warm side, listening to his steady breath. She thought of everything that had led here, the betrayal, the cold, the desperate fight for survival. She thought of Theron finding her in the snow, of the impossible bargain they'd struck, of the love that had grown from strategy into something neither expected. I hope you can see this, Father. I hope you know we kept fighting. Footsteps approached. Theron appeared in the doorway. I thought I'd find you here. Old habits. She reached out her hand. Join me? He wrapped his arms around her, both leaning against the horse who'd brought them together. No regrets? He asked. None. You. Only that it took us so long to find each other. They stood in the peaceful dark, surrounded by the smell of hay and home. Once, Elowyn Thorne had been left in the cold to die. But she'd been found by a man who saw her worth. And together, they'd built something no one could ever destroy. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. If this story touched something in you, the fight for justice, the power of healing, the strength it takes to rise from ashes, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling us your favorite moment and where you're listening from. If you're ready for another story where love conquers the impossible, subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the next chapter. You're the reason these stories exist. Thank you for being here, for believing that even in the darkest moments, hope can find a way.